Welcome to part 5. Keyboard clean and rebuild, I suppose, is what we're going to try with. We'll try and get the clean and rebuild done in this particular episode, but it might spill out into part 6. Who knows? Okay, so we've got to the situation where we've got all the keys off this thing. The good news is that these keys do not have the red glue issue. They've either been sorted or they never had the red glue of death, which is good news. But the keys are utterly filthy. The key bed has been stripped down, and there are a couple of things we need to do here. One of the things we need to do is we need to take these rubber. If I just do that so you can see a bit more. So there's like little I don't know what these are. These like a paper fingers over these rubber contact switches, which is how the keyboard works. Now these need to come off in certain locations, like there and there and there, where I've marked the chassis, because they were where my dead keys were. So we need to understand what's going on there and probably just give this a damn good clean. Now, I've been thinking about this since I did the video yesterday about what I'm going to do with this. And I think what I'm going to do, although I wasn't originally going to do it, I think I am going to take the rubber grommets off. I'm not going to take this off actually off the chassis, but I am going to go and get a toothbrush and some warm soapy water, and I'm just going to give this a thoroughly good clean, because it is utterly filthy. And some of that dirt and dust is probably underneath these rubber grommets, which is maybe what's causing the issue. So that's one of the things we need to do. We also need to treat the chassis for rust, because it's got rust. There's a big bit there. So rust on the chassis is a typical indication that drinks have been spilt through the keyboard, because otherwise it wouldn't go rusty otherwise. So it just seems to be on this bottom area here that are rust. There's a couple of little spots up here, but mainly down here, which would be in keeping with the fact that the keys are here and a drink has been spilt through the key. So there's some items of rust there which I probably need to just treat, which I will do. And the other thing I need to do is, obviously I had to take these plastic strips off. Okay. So these are what actually anchor the keys in. So I've had to take those off to be able to get the keyboard stripped down. Now what there is a white line of stickiness, if you like, there and here. And in order to stick something new onto there, I'm going to have to take that off. So that's the task I'm going to tackle first, is getting rid of this sticky material, whatever this sticky material is. I think this is some sort of baffle. So in order to get those back on, I need to first of all get this sticky material off this frame. And what I'm going to use for that is label cleaner. So it's sitting over here behind me, and I'm just going to give it a good spray onto here. It's quite horrible stuff, I might add. So this is the label remover, okay, but it really does do beautifully getting any sticky mess off. And then just like that. And on that note, I need to leave it for 10 minutes. So I'll talk to you in a bit. Bye bye. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. So as I said a few minutes ago, this stuff is quite evil. It smells evil. It's not something you really want to play with too often. But what it should do is start to release this, which I can only describe as double-sided sticky tape. As you can see, this is going to take quite a while. Let me just zoom this in. So all I'm doing is I'm just lifting the paper tape off, and I'm using this ruler. The reason I'm using this ruler is because I can't find a flat blade, but I just want something that's flat. I don't want to use a screwdriver. Screwdrivers tend to dig into the, whereas something with a flat edge like this should just lift it off. And it is kind of doing that quite nicely. This top piece is going to take a little bit longer. May need another treatment of label remover. It's not coming off particularly easily. What's really interesting actually is the top piece here actually seems to go underneath this bracket that's been welded on here, whereas the bottom piece seems to stop at the welds. So this bit was obviously put on after this top piece was put on, and I would imagine that it was some sort of pad or something was put on here. I'll have to go and look at the schematics about exactly what this was gluing down. Right, you're not going to watch me do that all the way up and down the keyboard, but it gives you an idea of what I've got to do all the way up and down the keyboard. So I'll stop the camera, I will carry on with this, and we'll see where we get in a little while. Right, so that cleaning exercise took about 20 minutes to use the scraper, as in the flat end of the rule. I did have to use a very small bladed screwdriver to get into the tight bits around the welded areas. But now what we do have is we have a fairly clean, in terms of all the stickiness has gone, and I've got lots of this sort of papery material on the bench in front of me, which I'll hoover up in a bit. What I'm doing right now is effectively I am just getting rid of the remaining residue that is sitting on the board, and all I'm doing is I'm using this cleaner just to get rid of all the stickiness, because I'm going to have to put something back in its place to stick these plastic bits down. So it makes sense, I've got to remove all the original glue to be able to do that. So, and the problem is it's not obvious where the glue is remaining until you actually start trying to wipe it off. So that gets rid of all that. And then what I think I'm going to do is just give this a quick wipe over with IPA, just to get rid of anything that's remaining. Now, some people may have said, why didn't you use IPA in the first place? It doesn't remove labels as good as this stuff. Anything sticky, this stuff lifts. Whereas you'd be rubbing for a month of Sundays with just IPA. But when you're down to the last bit and you're just trying to get rid of the residue, IPA is actually quite good. Well, I find IPA quite good anyway, for doing this kind of exercise. And yes, I know I should probably really be wearing gloves for this, but such is life. I mean, it's only alcohol, for God's sake, you know. And that's it. The mare is that. Right, okay, so that's all now clean. Now I have a feeling, I don't want to really rub this too much because I've got obviously the indicators are on here, but I have a feeling that top piece was something very similar to that, and it's like a pad. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put a piece of piece of, do these go back on? Yeah, what I think I'm going to try and do is put a piece of double-sided sticky tape on the other side, and hopefully that will act as the same sort of thing. We shall see. But there you go, that's the first bit. That's that cleaned off. Need to deal with the rust on this side, which will be, I'll think about how to deal with that. And next thing is to get these rubber contacts off, which I'll do next. The next bit is to now get that row of rubber feet or rubber contacts that are on the board. So I lift back the fingers like so, you can see them on the board here. Now I've got to get those off without breaking them. So let me just reposition the camera a sec. I find the easiest way to do this is effectively to push the rubber pieces through as far as you can with your fingers. And if you can't get to somewhere like that, just use a blunt instrument like the end of this particular screwdriver and just push them through as much as you can with your fingers. So that just releases the tension. You're not making it. You're not putting as much friction on the rubber join as you might do if you were just trying to pull them off. Now some of them are just going to be downright awkward. But most of them will just push through, which will loosen these up. So that should be half a strip. What I want to do now is I just want to mark the rubber strips that correspond with the keys that are not working. So it's that one and that one Now theoretically what I should be able to do is gently, very gently, there's number one come off, and I want these to go back where they came out of, so I'm just going to mark this with a mark to indicate that was number one. Which is why I'm convinced somebody's already been in here. So if you turn that over, I'll repeat this on the other end of the keyboard now, up here on this part. No point in watching me do that again. So I'll switch the camera back on when there's something more interesting. Okay, I'll be honest with you, I've seen these worse. So these are the two contacts that are bad. Bring them to there. Those contacts to me don't look horrendous, I have to be honest. I'm wondering whether some isopropyl alcohol will probably bring those up a treat. And if we look at the corresponding pads on here, which is probably difficult to see, I'll put that up to the camera here. So the pad is, that's one of the pads and that's the other pad. And you know what, I think just a little bit of TLC with a cotton swab and some isopropyl alcohol will probably clean off a film of dirt and debris that's on that key and hopefully bring it back to life. I will of course have a look at the soldering around this area as well, just to ensure that there's no, I can't see any obvious dry joints, and if there are then we'll correct those. But this needs to be cleaned, and I think the easiest way to clean this is warm soapy water in the first inst, and then some isopropyl alcohol on the pads themselves. So we're now down to the nub of this exercise, which is to try and get the keyboard back to working fashion. So I'm not going to wash that until the morning. This frame, too late now. But the last thing I'm going to do this evening is I'm just going to clean. So these are the plastic locking strips that lock the keys against this frame, and like the frame, they're covered in this sort of residue material of where they've been stuck down, so I need to remove that. And again, the easiest way I know of doing this is to back to this stuff, the label remover, and give it a good spray, leave it 10 minutes. I'm not going to bother you with the getting the sticky stuff off, because you saw me do that on there. So this is literally a case of leave it for 10 minutes and I'll take the sticky stuff off, and then they should be good to go back into the slots when I reassemble the keyboard. Of course, I've just splashed onto the keyboard frame now, which is something I didn't want to do, but let's clean that and that. And on that note, I'm going to say I'll see you in the morning. Looking at the footage that's been shot so far, that's probably about enough for part 5. Part 6, we're going to pick up with cleaning the keys, sorting out the areas where I think I've identified problems with the actual the board itself. Hopefully that's going to repair my dead keys, cleaning the keypads with IPA and putting it back together. So for now, live long and prosper, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.